part two.
Part two, where we go over some of the successes that we've had in a self-evaluation format, things we've done in the past that we've accredited to some of our minor and major successes as photographers. We did part one last week. If you missed that, go check that out. And we're going to do part two today.
Part two.
So this is going to be an entirely anecdote and from our own experience, which hopefully is very useful. So shall we begin?
Let's do it.
Okay. You want to go first? Me go first?
No, you can go first today.
Me go first. Why is this? Because you went first yesterday?
Yeah.
Yeah, you made it clear you like being the third or fourth guy in line. See what you're working with.
Clean up batter.
That's funny. Okay, well, I'm going to go with something kind of technical off the start. Something that I feel like was very helpful early on and it's still kind of helpful with my photography, was developing my own editing style in a way that was not comparative to things that I was seeing online on Instagram, at least not in a conscious way. What I mean by that was I wasn't trying to edit exactly like other people. I was satisfied with an edit and still am to this day when I simply like it, to put that quite succinctly. Very early on, I just played around with sliders and the different features in Lightroom. And if it was good enough for me or I was happy with it, to me, that was considered a good edit. And then with enough repetitions over time, naturally a certain look or style was developed. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't consume content or great photography. I think what I was doing was absorbing that, and just simply by being immersed in it and by following people that I really enjoyed their imagery, and then allowing that to naturally flow out within the editing programs, as opposed to trying to exactly emulate what I had saw in a conscious way. And it made editing a lot more fun because there was no standard other than my own. It allowed me to experiment with a lot of crazy styles that often pushed, I think, certain looks too far, whether that be saturation or clarity, which I feel like allows you to, you don't know when you've taken something too far until you have, right?
Yeah.
You sit on it and look at it. And I bring this up because it's just such a common, I feel like, theme. How do I develop my style? How do I develop my own style? And I think people overcomplicate it. Consume stuff. I mean, don't make it your whole day. Just relax. Let it sit in your brain. Follow people whose photography you really love. And then just do your reps, edit, shoot, edit. And if you like how it looks, that's enough. That's your style. So why I bring this up is because I feel like it saved me a lot of frustration from not desiring an exact look and struggling to achieve it. I was just kind of happy to do what I was doing. And I feel like that allowed me to continue and not dip out on photography early.
That's interesting. It's interesting also because I took a completely different approach.
Okay. Well, share.
Well, I'll say what I did and then we can compare maybe pros and cons. I did the opposite, where I would A/B two photos. I would screenshot something quickly, A/B it, and try to understand or replicate what I was seeing from the other photo without knowing how it was edited, trying to get those same results and trying to figure out, oh, this looks like the Orton effect. What's the Orton effect? Let me try to do that and learn that toolkit and figure if I like that, if I love it. I love it for a while. It's cool. It's new, but it's going to fade a little bit. But now I know how to apply it if I want to. I really was into like this blue, dark, moody thing in the beginning. And that's because I was copying that look or trying to get this really cool, dark blue aesthetic that I was attracted to for whatever reason at the time. And then there's these other moments where you see Paige Tingy. I don't know how to say her last name. Tingy. I think she's a really cool editor, and she has a wonderful tutorial. It's very long, like very in depth. Her whole process through a photo, and I would watch that over and over again and try to incorporate those techniques and see if I could grab something. So I was totally copying in the beginning to learn, and I thought of it as like a cover song. Right? Like I want to play this. I want to try to play this song like Dave Matthews plays this song. Let's see if I can do it. Maybe it's my own sort of take on it. It's close. It's not quite there, but I do really like that. And maybe I'm going to keep these pieces of that. So that's kind of how I developed my style, whatever that is today. Now I'm more like how you describe. Now I'm not thinking of a certain the highlight has to be at 42. I don't press preset to, Aaron Manna style. I don't just press that and go. Every photo I've always liked editing as its own photo and getting to a place, whatever the mood may be.
Yeah, you're talking about reverse engineering something you like so that you can learn the sliders as a kind of translation and understanding their function, which I did do. I think my point is also that I wasn't making that the substance of my editing learning.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, if you listen to enough Green Day songs, you're going to sound like Green Day.
Right.
To an extent, right? So I was very conscious of doing that. When there was something that really stood out to me, I was like, okay, or something new that I recognized in an image, I'd be like, I wonder how they got that. That's when I would do the reverse engineer, like you were saying. But for the most part, I was just literally touching every single slider. I would move one and then I would pick something else and move it, and I would see how they would interplay together.
Mm-hmm.
And just over time, I feel like it's a language. It's being immersed in all the interconnections of how moving one slider affects another, because I think people can tend to like think of it very each slider is like its own thing, but you change so many other things when you move one slider, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I was doing the reverse engineering thing when something really stood out or there was a technique that I had never seen. But for the most part, I was just building my own style from the start by messing around until I got to a look that I liked. And I felt that took a lot of pressure off of trying to be a certain way and just letting a style come naturally and accepting that this is a time thing.
Yeah, it makes total sense. I don't think either's necessarily right or wrong. There's a ton of tutorials on ways to edit, but if you just copy that method, you're not going to have anything maybe new.
I really don't think there's a right way to edit.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's good looking or aesthetically pleasing photos and non-aesthetically pleasing photos. And I think that there's so many ways to fit into either of those categories. Sure, there's some general rules, but I agree. I don't think that this is how you should edit. How you should edit is the steps you need to take to get a photo that you like and that's well received, if that is important to you.
Yeah, I think the common ground for both ways that we did this was repetitions. Trying a lot of different things a lot of different times, and
you're not being afraid to post it, being afraid to not being afraid to post stuff early on, right?
Yeah,
that's such a good feeling when you think it's amazing, and then 4 years later you go, wow, that was poopy compared to what I can do now. But that's okay because it's the best you could do at the time.
Yeah, scroll back on our Instagrams. It's funny the change.
It is very funny.
Especially, I mean, I can't say especially, but I just know my own work may be better. But the very beginning stuff is, not bad, I guess. Kind of, but different.
Take it too far, though. You know what I mean? Because you can pull back from there. I like that idea. I mean, what's the worst that's going to happen? The editing police aren't going to come to your door. I found it over the years too. I don't know if you feel this way too, though, because you mentioned you had your very misty blue, ethereal looking stuff. I don't even know how you would describe my earlier stuff, but I've noticed that I've pulled back a lot to a more natural look where now almost the style is less is more. Not raw to camera, obviously, but how can I make this as aesthetically pleasing and artistic without moving much, which is a very fun style, I think, to get into, especially in the genres of wildlife.
Yeah. I agree, and I enjoy pushing the envelope a bit. There was a big transition when I got a Sony camera. I was so used to the Nikon like color grade or color from Nikon. And these are little things, but people talk about like Canon's color, Nikon's color, Sony's color, and getting used to it. I don't know. I can't explain it. I can't articulate why, but with the Sony's color scheme, I just felt a little bit more stuck in this, a little bit more natural than I was way. It's just a little bit more harder to adjust the colors drastically or change things to make it super moody. It didn't lend itself as easily, or maybe it just was more true. I'm not sure, but there was a shift in editing with a new camera as well, which I thought was interesting as it was happening.
Yeah, that is a very interesting point. The color profiles of different camera brands. I think the other thing that I've been trying to do a lot more recently is, because when you take editing too far, you head into the arena of fine art, right? Where it's so processed that it's not it's not even relatively close to what you shot, which is impressive, and it showcases your editing skills, which there's definitely a place for. I think early on, a few years ago, I had one leg over the fence of into the fine art territory and one leg over the fence into the more authentic, fresh out of camera look. And so now I'm very deliberate in, okay, is this a fine art piece, or is it not? And does it require minimal editing? And I'm trying not to kind of be stuck in limbo where it could go either way. An example, an example of this is I just did not too long ago a full black and white portrait of a fox in super tight, where it's clear that it's a fine art portrait.
Right.
Whereas years ago, I wouldn't have dreamed of cropping in that tight and putting a fox, which was so hard to photograph and still are, as a black and white photo. I mean, it almost sounds like blasphemy, taking the beautiful orange coat and just killing the colors.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you go super far with certain looks and you're intentional about it, you can make really nice fine art pieces. So trying to be more deliberate with which category I'm in now.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think certain photos lend themselves to ideas, like creative ideas, where you're like, oh, I could exaggerate this moment of light or this shadow and zoom in, whatever it may be.
That's a good point. Does the photo drive where you're heading with the edit, or does your...
Yes.
Okay.
Now,
finish that. What do you mean by that? So just to elaborate.
Right now, let's go back to the beginning. In the beginning, I was forcing edits on any photo, all photos. I was forcing an edit on all four photos.
So you had an idea and you were going to...
I like this. Yeah. Let's go with that blue, moody sort of thing, which lends itself nicely to like pine trees and fog and mist and a rainy day. That's great. But a sunny day with not a cloud in the sky and forcing that edit kind of looks like, is it blue hour? Like, what the hell are you doing? So again, if you're on my page or you want to go there, scroll all the way down. It takes a minute, but scroll all the way down and you'll be like, wow, he's changed a lot, like gone a long way. So I would force an edit on any photo to fit that aesthetic. Now, I might do a photo very blue, but it's got to work.
Right.
And I think certain photos or certain subjects or certain light or certain moods or certain weather lend itself to different artistic choices, like it triggers certain things like, oh, I want to really exaggerate the light coming through these pine trees, and I'm going to exaggerate the shadows, and it's going to be a very mysterious photo, versus Oh, cool. Fox, awesome. A full sun, bright day. I'm gonna showcase that it was a bright day. I'm not gonna try to make it moody and dark because it doesn't work. Doesn't work.
So good sub point is letting the photo lead. I think something we've kind of both learned to embrace.
Yeah, and having the tools. One of the first like tutorials I ever did was it's on this site called Flurn. So it's like Photoshop Learn.
You did or you watched? Sorry.
I watched. I didn't do it, but like I followed along with. I downloaded the photos that they were using. I went through the whole tutorial, and it was they were making a light. A picture of like maybe it was blue hour or just before blue hour. They wanted to make it appear as blue hour, and this girl was holding a flower, and they were going to illuminate the flower and make it light onto her face. There was no light involved, but it was just photoshopping and using these techniques. That's not my style typically of like adding in very specific lights or fake things like a flower that's lit up and lighting up her face. But to be able to understand how to do that helped in many different other ways. So trying a lot of different things. Don't just stick in the one lane that you feel like you're going to do. Understand how to profile skin or bring out eyes or add light or add sun rays or add fog or add different sort of feels, because it can, the Orton effect, color grading, any of that stuff, it can just, depending on what the photo makes you feel, then you have that toolbox to say, oh, I can do this. I can exaggerate this little area. I can do this thing.
Absolutely.
Right. So remember Luminar 4?
I still have it. I still use it every now and then.
Yeah, every now and then. When it came out, I was obsessed with the sun rays.
Just everything.
Where would the sun be? Where's the sun coming? Where can I add the sun?
Yeah.
Great. Cool. Doesn't apply for every photo, but every once in a while now, I remember that tool. I remember that.
Was that the Mantis light era?
It might have been.
Top right Jesus light, we called it?
Top right or left. It depended where it was coming from. But the point being now is like, yeah, that was definitely a phase. But now there's this in my head, if it does lend to that, if it does lend to, oh, this improves the photo, this improves a little bit of the look, even if it's subtle, I know that tool exists.
Yeah, well said.
Thank you.
All right, you're up.
Okay, my third one, I guess at this point, maybe no particular order.
Third thing you would attribute to your successes so far as a photographer.
Yeah, and I think this might be a natural one for everyone, and I think it's one to jump onto. I think in the beginning there's an excitement and motivation with a passion, and it's a rocket booster. Find a way to jump on that rocket and fuel it and go as far as you possibly can, because that motivation is probably not going to last at that level forever. But in the beginning, when you have that motivation and you're able to really tap into it, you can get unbelievable amounts of things done.
So strap onto the rocket before it runs out of gas. Or the propulsion is less.
Use it. Like there's a time where I did 4 fall weekends in a row, traveling, and it was hard and it was tiring, but it was that rocket. Like I want to get this content. I want to see these areas. What's all the hubbub? I have this energy towards it. And instead of being like, I shouldn't travel, like I did it. I jumped on those opportunities. I jumped on those things. Early on gigs where it was like a lot of travel, maybe not the best cost, but I was motivated to see what would happen and jump on that rocket and see where it takes you. It's simple. I don't have to go into it too far, but ride that passionate wave as far as you possibly can, because it does slow down. The wave loses its power. And then life comes back a little bit and you're like, I can't really go away for 4 weekends in a row. I got stuff I got to do, whatever it may be. At some point, there's like this boost that slows down. So my suggestion and something that I did that I felt like helped me was like I got super into it when that boosters were going off, coupled with the convenience and inconvenience of COVID, but the ability to have some of that time. It was just a good time to ride that rocket booster. And I know, lucky in a sense, maybe I got lucky in a sense of that time period where that rocket booster was going, but it allowed me to do a lot of this outdoor stuff, get into nature, not have to work for a good part of that year, or go into work. I did still work, and use that fuel to get to a place where I feel like I did maybe 3 years in 1 year.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple things there that I want to add or ask you. The first one is that initial wave that you've just mentioned will fizzle. That doesn't mean there will never be reoccurring waves after that. And there's always the ability to strap on to those moments of excitement in photography as they come. Right, riding the crest of the wave and then being in the valley of it for a bit and just kind of floating around and then riding that wave again. So if you can find strategies to help really attach yourself to that rocket, that's great. And that's what my question is. So you mentioned that it's important for people early on, and I added when these waves come 5, 10, 15 years down the line. You mentioned it's important to strap on. How were you doing that? It begs the question, okay, how do I do what you've just said? And I'm curious if you can share that from your own personal experience.
Yeah.
You can't really put into words.
No, one thing for sure I can say is there is nothing that I've purchased during that time or the beginning parts of my career that now I'm going like, oh, I wish I had that money back. Like it's gone. At the time, I mean, we all know lenses and expensive gear is expensive, especially as you're starting off. You're kind of like, there's a lot of sticker shock. I had it. I was like, what? Like what lens was that? That's a beautiful picture. What? 12 grand? Oh, like I remember those moments exactly. Like, well, that's not happening. But even a cheap wildlife lens is being $2,000, a body's $3,000. Like it adds up, and you're like, wow, what am I doing? Or this money could go elsewhere, or what have you. And I'm not saying spend what you don't necessarily have or can't afford, but I am saying that 5 years later, I have no regret, or there's no like, I'm not sitting around adding up how much money I spent and what it turned into. So
fresh gear got you excited.
Fresh gear got me excited, and fresh gear, I have this thing with gear. I don't want to buy things twice. I don't want to be super jazzed about camera or super jazzed about photography and buy a lens and a camera for $2,000 and then feel like I was really looking at that $4,000 one. It's in me. Like, that's the one I really wanted. Now I'm getting better at this. Now I really want that. Now I have a $4,000 camera and a $2,000 camera, and I spent $6,000. I've always felt that with guitars. Like the more expensive gear and the nicer gear you have, a couple of things. Number one, the better resale value there is. If you buy cheap shit, no one wants it. No one wants it, and you're not going to get a lot on the secondary market. If you buy expensive shit, it's going to sell for a good price, at least a portion of it back. You're going to get a good amount back. And I think that's a really important thing to know. That, I mean, especially for me in guitars.
Is that your experience?
Yeah. So I can speak especially with guitars. All the guitars I own now that I've bought in the last 20 years are worth more if I were to sell them than how I bought them.
Right. Does that necessarily equate to cameras though?
No, it does not equate to cameras. But if you buy a nice piece of camera, a piece of gear, you're going to be able to sell it for a good portion of the money. if you have a really nice lens, if you have a Sony 28-70 and it's in perfect condition, G Master, and it costs $2,800, you're probably gonna be able to sell it for $2,000.
And you think that you'd be able to sell less of the purchase value of kit lens for a Rebel TI?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do. Or at that point, it's not even like, it probably wouldn't be worth selling. Like
Right.
2000, 5 years, if I said I need to sell my camera gear, I'm gonna get some good money if I needed to.
Right.
If I had a bunch of kit lenses and whatnot, and I needed to sell camera gear, I'm gonna get a couple $100. So beyond that, I think take those leaps. If you just have to have a gut check. You have to have an honest conversation. Are you really into this? Are you gonna go for it? Get some nice stuff, because it makes the process that much more fun. It takes away one huge excuse. I've bought so many things with my passions, so many golf clubs, until I got like professionally fit with really nice gear and said, it's my swing. It's not the golf stuff. Stop blaming the driver on your missed shots. It is your swing. It's your lack of practice, whatever it is. I think you don't have to have the best gear in the world, but getting gear where okay, this gear is very able to do the job, and now it's up to me to put in the time, and I have the gear to do so.
Yeah, I'll say for me also, just to be completely honest, part of the rocket ship was looking at other accounts online that were doing awesome, were posting awesome photos. I mean, that's why I went to Iceland.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the camera has been a catalyst for so many things. And because Haley and I wanted to go to Iceland together. That was our first trip together.
Oh.
Yeah, we'd been dating 6 months.
Wow.
So we're like, you want to go to Iceland? And I guess that was the stress test. We passed it.
You guys have only been dating for 6 months now?
No, we had been.
I'm just kidding. Imagine.
Actually 7 years.
7 years?
6 years? 6 or 7?
Holy Moses.
Yeah.
Haley, how do you do it? Let's get Haley on the show.
Oh, man. That's not a horrible idea.
I want the inside scoop.
It'd be all bad. No, I'm just kidding. She'd be so nice. But seeing all these cool places was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. Or these cool concepts, not even places, just concepts. I want to do that. I want to do that. I could do that. How do I do that? So that was a way for me to strap to the rocket as well, because I had, just to be the opposite end of what you've described, I had a Rebel T5i, just like in a starter kit. And I was so excited to do all this stuff. Yeah. I think because seeing it on my phone in the living room made it seem accessible somehow, that these are just people with cameras going and doing this stuff. And I can do that. Like, why can't I do that? Maybe that's a mindset thing. Maybe people don't feel that way right out of the gate, but I fortunately did. And so, I mean, I wonder, I wouldn't have had a lot of the experiences that I've had so far if I hadn't taken an interest in my camera. So, I mean, maybe that's something to add to the fuel, is that your camera will bring you places because you'll want to capture those places, or will take you to interesting events, or get you in front of interesting people. It's not the main reason. I still would have liked to have gone to Iceland and Costa Rica and all these cool places. But I think the camera helped me recognize that it would be fun to capture those places, just as an extra motivator to go do these things, which naturally built a portfolio and skill and et cetera.
I'm glad you brought that up, because with that rocket booster, more than just early success, it being able to attach to it got me out of a travel funk and getting on a plane again. And it had been a while. The excitement to go see these places and potentially get photos of certain animals or certain landscapes trumped the fear of, or anxiety, I should say, of traveling. Not so much a fear, but more of like there's an anxiety to traveling. I still have it. Where it's all the hubbub, the organization, where's my connecting flight, where's my baggage, it's a lot to travel. You got to be, and the more you do it, the better you get. But if you're not doing it, it's a lot. And I still feel that anxiety, but the the Rocket Booster has pushed me past that, where if I didn't have that, to be honest, I'd be like, I'm good at home. I'll do things around here, you know? So I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, moving on. So far, we
Moving
talked
on.
about editing and strapping yourself to the Rocket Booster early on, riding the waves when you can. I am going to put as my second point, maybe we'll have bonus points. We'll see where we're at for time. This is only something I've put into practice maybe in the last 2 years. And I don't see myself ever going back. And I am so grateful I have done this. It's turning off notifications on my phone. So I don't get the banner notifications. I don't get the Instagram DM notification. I don't get anything. The only thing I get is my phone rings if somebody calls it. So I have to go check my text messages. I have to decide to go check my Instagram. I have to decide these things. And what it did was it gave me control back over impulse. Ding. Oh, I got to open it. Ding. Got to open it. I realized how much time those little interruptions were adding up to and how much it was impacting what I could get done, important things I could get done in a day that would ultimately improve my life and my photography career. Not only is it the cumulative time, but the interruption in your train of thought or focus. You know, it takes a little bit of time, 15, I'm sure it's different for everybody. For me, it's about 15 minutes to get into a rhythm of focused work. And if your phone is dinging every 10 seconds, how are you supposed to do anything? Now, as well, and this has gotten worse as the years have gone on, there's rage bait, people arguing, cat videos. I mean, that all has its place, I guess.
Love cat videos.
I just don't think people, for the most part, understand how activating that is to your fight or flight, to the fight or flight section of your nervous system. And I don't think, and I was one of these people, I don't think a lot of the population realizes that they're walking around in an activated state all the time, which is so stressful. And putting circuit breakers or stoppers on access to that stimuli has helped me focus better. It's helped my stress levels, which ultimately has made my output way better. It's allowed me to focus on projects, sit and actually focus on a project for 3 hours, which in today's day and age, I feel like is a difficult thing for people to do. It was for me. I'm speaking from experience. And I've become more effective at doing the things I need to do, building a website, sitting down and reaching out to guests for the show. Things that really, really matter, as opposed to getting sucked into the doom scroll. Right? And I realized, I think, that it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's just that you can't fight the phone. It is programmed by some of the smartest people in the world with features like the scroll that is like the slot machine. You never know what you're going to get. That you can't beat that stuff. The only way you can beat that stuff is by limiting it, is by finding a way to put a stopper on it. And so I took it so far even as to, so I did all the notification stuff, which was great, which, like I said, put control back, gave me the control to check. I am in charge here, not the phone, not Instagram, not other people. I'm in charge of where I put my time digitally, which was nice. And then I took it even further and I downloaded an app called ScreenZen. Have I mentioned this on the show?
Yeah.
Or to you?
You did.
Where I can only open Instagram 5 times a day. I I can only stay in the app for 5 minutes before it locks me out. I get a prompt before, so I click the app icon and it says, "Why are you checking?" So it's another stopper. Just so many steps. And if anything, it has made me more deliberate with when I'm checking, let's say, Instagram. Okay, I'm in here because I am posting. I am in here because I am expecting a message from somebody via DM. I am in here because, and it's just eliminated the mindlessness of it all. And the mindlessness is where I feel like a 5-minute relaxing scroll turns into an hour. And that's where all the things on your list pile up. Then that's where all the stress, tons of stress you add to your life. Not to mention in that 5-minute scroll that turned into an hour, who knows what kind of activating stuff you're consuming, people arguing, this, that, politics, etc. It's just helped me have a clear, quiet mind by deciding to restrict my access to addicting tech.
Yeah, I commend you. And sometimes I'm blown away. Like today, I was like, "Hey man, do we happen to get that important email back?" And it's like a week later and he's like, "I haven't checked yet." I was like, "What the actual fuck? How's that even possible?" Which was good. I do have questions though. Is Haley on Do Not Disturb? Are your parents on Do Not Disturb? Does anyone get access to the ding to get your attention?
No. Most of the time I'm with Haley, so it's not a big deal. The odd time I will take her off Do Not Disturb if we're away from each other for a while, or if I know she's going somewhere. But the phone rings. If someone I care about is in trouble, the phone rings. You're not texting me if you're trapped under a car, right?
Right.
So, and then the other thing to add to my monologue, I think I've mentioned this before on the show, the phone doesn't stay in the room when I sleep.
Yeah.
The phone is out of the room. It's so far away. And I know people who will say, "Oh, my phone's turned upside down. I don't scroll on it in bed. It's still in the room." I still think there's a proximity effect. It's a proximity tether to the digital world, which is full of all the things I just described. And having a wall or a door between me and that world, I think subconsciously just offers another layer of peace and, the parasympathetic nervous system where I can it's rest and digest,
Yeah.
So no, to answer your question.
Well, that explains a lot.
Yeah.
Why you don't always get back to me immediately.
Well, yeah, I mean, let's use that as a case study. We talk every day almost. Could you imagine if we had like no control, we could spend all day?
Yeah, I do. I totally commend that practice.
I just honestly felt like prior to this, this is how I describe it. My head was like somebody with a whisker and a pan of eggs, just scrambling everything around.
Yeah.
That's how I felt walking around. There was just so much noise and stimulus. And I just personally got to a point where I said, I'm not built for this. I'm not going to have the, maybe we'll call it arrogance or ego, to think that I can control all of this information and stimulus coming at me. I can't. I'm walking around with a 200,000-year-old brain.
Yeah.
I'm not equipped for all this stuff.
No. It's definitely not. And I feel for the kids that have been brought up with it,
Yeah. So, I mean, I think the reason I've put this in as something that's helped contribute to my photography practice is because it's allowed me to focus and do things from a relaxed state.
Yeah.
Make decisions and help me label and prioritize what is actually important, as opposed to running out of time in the day, just having been sucked into essentially meaningless stuff. Not all of it, but a lot of it's junk, right? Most of it.
Right. A lot we don't need to do with.
Do I need to see 50 stories? I don't.
No, and I always say, especially in the state the world is, with everyone having the ability to know everything in the digital news system and quickness of stories breaking. If it's a story I need to know, it gets to me pretty quickly through people.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff I don't need to know or don't need to see that then wouldn't get to me, or you would miss it. So, which is fine. It's fine. I think the world has become, I mean, there's pros and cons to both. I think you can go back to like World War II and the delay of news.
Of course.
The understanding of what's going on can create huge atrocities. On the other hand,
now we're live streaming wars.
Yeah. And maybe that has the opposite effect on just mental health, or knowing, things that really might not apply to your daily bubble.
Yeah.
All over the world, not even as big as wars, but like a murder in Ohio that was gruesome.
What does that do for me? It's very sad, but how does that help? What does that do for me? It
adds fear, it adds anxiety, it adds fight or flight.
Instant arousal.
Yeah.
Which, there's that arousal is built in for a reason. It's the fight or flight. But if you're in that state all day, and you may not even realize it. Remember I told you, was it a few years ago, the first time I ever did a breathwork session?
Yeah.
That I bawled my eyes out uncontrollably, and I had no idea why. It just happened.
Yeah.
And I still think that was just so much built up, stored stress. That to me is one of the weirdest things that has ever happened to me. Just round 3 of a breathwork, and I just uncontrollably cried. Not because I was sad or anything. It was just this weird reflex. Yeah. I texted her right away. I'm like, dude, can you help? What just happened to me? Should I see a doctor?
Yeah.
The weirdest thing. And it's never really happened since. But that was around the time that I had just started deciding, okay, I don't really want to, or started queuing in on the fact that, okay, maybe I'm walking around with a lot more tension than I realized. That
right.
Maybe we're all walking around with tons of tension, and it's just called normal. Maybe that's not normal. I ask myself a lot. I question a lot.
Right. Yeah.
With certain things, like maybe this isn't, because everybody's doing it doesn't make it normal.
No, there's something to like nature and being outside and having space. I think New York gets a bad rep, New York City, of being like a bunch of cranky people. But spend a couple days there with the noise and the concrete and the bumping and the people and the yelling and the speed of everything. It gets to you. The lights, the flashing, the honking. It definitely affects how you feel. And I think if you live in that environment, it's in your hands, essentially. That's like the same thing, in your hands.
Mm-hmm.
So it must make an effect. There's definite correlations to the face front camera and smartphones and the rise of anxiety and depression amongst teens. Like it's the same exact bar graph or line graph for those two things. Like I see it in my work all the time.
Yep.
It's a drug. Some people can handle it and some people can't. And I don't think parents are completely on board with like, this is the new drug, or this has danger to it, right? Same as cigarettes back in the day, like doctors prescribe them. Like it takes a while for things to become like, oh, that's really not great at all.
Yeah. And I understand that it's difficult because we're speaking to photographers here listening who want to post their work online. Right. Mm-hmm. And I don't think there's any compromise with this. It's if you're listening and you're somebody who wants to grow numerically with follower counts on Instagram, if that's important to you, you're gonna have to spend a ton of time on the app, in the digital space, on TikTok and all those things. That's just a matter of fact. And if you can handle that, then so be it. If you can't handle that and you want to have, if you know you can't handle that and you want to have a bit more inner peace and kind of do some of the things I just described, just know that the trade-off is that you're not going to have astronomical growth like some of these people you may or may not look up to. You can't have your cake and eat it too, which was a hard realization for me to come to. because there was a stage where I was interested in continuing to grow my account. I think I'm not anymore, which is, freeing in itself.
Mhm.
But you can't have it both ways. And for me, I got to a point where I valued my mental and physical health over everything. I think I've said that a million times. And this protocol fell into that category of enhancing my life from a mental health level, from an emotional level. And so all the trade-offs were 100% worth it for me.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm still doing fulfilling and exciting things in photography outside of the digital spaces I just described. I mean, this show is fun.
Yeah.
I can name a ton of other stuff, but it's a good time.
Yeah, I agree with that. And can I pigtail onto my last point with that?
Yeah, point number 4 for you. Let's do it.
Yeah. And this is sort of a hindsight, if I could do it differently point.
Okay, it's not something you can change in real time. It's like it's a done type thing.
No, well, if I were to start over, if I was starting over now,
starting over what as on your photography journey?
Yes, my photography journey. So what you just mentioned, there's a time where followers is the key. How do we get followers? Got to post a ton. Got to be on this app a ton. That's going to be the key to success. I think this is what I would suggest, and it sounds crazy, but I'd rather you build a portfolio. I'll speak to myself. I'd rather you build a really good portfolio that you are proud of in the niches or the subject area that you want to pursue, and then have that set up, and then pay literal money to invest in yourself. Get your following by boosting your posts, by getting your work out there. Do it quick and fast and dirty. Get to 10,000 followers. Get to 5,000 followers. Get to whatever it is, whatever your number is, whatever you can afford to get to. Pay to get there and then move on. And the point being, if you work at it and you just work to gain 10 followers here, gain 10, you're spending an inordinate amount of time on this digital platform, and it's taking you away from actual work and money, which you could start getting back tenfold. So
does that apply now, or do you mean back?
I think it still applies now. I think there is value for a company that sees that, oh, that guy has 5,000 followers. That's solid. That guy has 20,000 followers. That's solid. Versus that guy has 10 followers and he's pitching me a thing.
No, I guess my question was, does the boosting still apply now? Because you were talking to your previous self. You would still boost if it were important to you?
If I was starting over, I would.
Yeah. So I guess that's my question. Like, why wouldn't you do that right now versus...
Because I think there is a level where what I just said, the companies or the people you're applying to or you're pitching, they might look at your portfolio on Instagram and go, oh, he's got 9,000 followers. That's solid. That's a good following. Oh, he's got 1,000 followers even. That's solid.
How much weight do you think that actually carries? And that's going to vary from person to person.
A little bit. But I think the difference being in this day and age with photography, if you were to start over, it might be hard to get 1,000 followers. It might take an enormous amount of time to get with photography to get to 1,000 followers. So you're going to be you're going to post 500 times to try to get to 1,000 followers versus posting 20 times and maybe putting $100 total or whatever it may be to get to, oh, that bought me 1,000 people to see my stuff. And now 500 of those people liked it. Now I have a little bit of a following. I saved a lot of time. I invested in myself. Now I can move ahead with the, hey, can I do some photography for your restaurant? Here's my Instagram. Here's my work. Oh, they have a following. They have some nice work. Yeah. There's a billing of trust there. I think the trap being with these Instagram, with any social media, is there's no end number. So you get hooked in this sort of, oh, 10,000 is fun. Now I get a swipe up effect. Oh, but I wish I had 25,000. Then I wish I had 50,000. Then I think people are going to give me those bigger deals. No, now and the bar just keeps going. Like it just keeps going. When we were first starting out, to have 100,000 followers was that was a huge deal.
It's not that big anymore.
No. It's like, oh, my brain goes
Aside
like,
from two guys that have like 12 and 20.
yeah, but my brain goes like, oh, you hit the reels wave really well. Like you did a good job.
Yeah.
Like you had
I
a
saw
decent
a meme today. It was like photographers, or it was photographers who have become famous photographers because they posted reels, and it's just Christian Bale in an interview. Just well,
yeah.
What?
Yeah.
So let me ask some clarifying questions. I guess what your main point is, and I've never really thought about it this way. It makes sense. Is that would you rather spend 500 hours for free in the sense of you're not paying anything, posting, to build a certain audience size, or if I came to you and said, hey, you can do that for $100 and it'll take you 20 posts, which would you pick? Now we have to make some assumptions here in your argument that I don't know whether they're true or not. Maybe it depends a lot on the quality of your work. I don't have much experience with this recently of if boosted posts translate to followers. I don't know that. So before everybody listening runs out and does that.
Yeah, it's true. I'm basing this on a long time ago, so I don't know. But
that was my second question: does this apply to 2021, Aaron? I feel like in that instance, you're probably very right.
Yeah.
I don't know what the environment is now, but I think regardless, you bring up a good point that that potentially just paying to play can get you further than the time needed to be spent on doing the same thing in your mind that's free. Like you're not paying. It's this weird trade-off between I'll pay a certain amount to get to where I want to go, or I'll spend a ton of time and not pay.
Yeah, and with that,
with your time,
you're this or that. I think needs an added part. A ton of time also being subject to cats fighting, politics,
right,
murder, war, just bad stuff. So it's that on top of now 500 hours of doing the work, but now I'm on there for an additional 200 hours because I got sucked in scrolling also. So I think there's this point where it starts to take over, like you said, it starts to take over, and now we've lost the script. Now, like, what are we actually? Now it's just maybe an addiction to posting and being on here and comments and which whatever. But I guess if you're starting off with your photography career and you want I guess the keyword career, you want to pursue jobs, thinking that that's the way, which I did in the beginning, and that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's the way. I don't think it's the way to spend that much time on Instagram. Spend the time, get a little base, get a foundation, sure, but then spend the time reaching out to people, reaching out to clients, pitching, working on your public speaking, working on your networking, talking to people.
Yeah. To your point too, this is funny. I think it was like a Hormozy post. Again, I'm not like a huge Hormozy guy.
You are lately. You talk about them every minute.
Things that stand out to me where I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. And then there's other things where I say you're an insane robot, and that's no way to live. One of them was something along the lines of, if your business isn't making X amount of dollars, sit down for 4 hours a day and advertise. And do that until you reach X number of revenue. And I was like, that makes sense. And I think it was along the lines of take what you're earning and put it into advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And it just made me think of that, what you were saying. And that doesn't necessarily mean on Instagram or whatever, or even necessarily paying to advertise. I guess you could argue that just posting is advertising, but your argument was maybe it's not as effective as opposed to just paying. I don't know. Our disclaimers, I don't know if that works in this day and age. Like if I'm a wildlife photographer, am I going to advertise my great blue heron? I don't know if that gets me far. If it's targeted well, perhaps. I'm not sure. Right. Maybe somebody can weigh in on this who's done this. If you're one of these people, write in the comments.
Yeah, I just think, I guess,
I agree with you that it would have worked for sure in 2021, and I'm not disagreeing with you now. I'm
And it might be reels. You might have to do it in a different way to get sort of a foundation to have some street credit. I do think there is a street credit. Like if I approach a company and I want to do photography for them and I share my Instagram and there's 22 followers and two of
that
them,
doesn't look good. I understand that.
it doesn't look good. So get to a point where you feel like that looks solid. That looks good.
What if I'm approaching same company and I just send my website?
Yeah, I think that's fine too. I think
Just abandon the whole,
spend the hours on that.
You know, it's funny you say that because I include when I am doing a pitch like you've just described, I include my email or my website at the bottom, and I include my Instagram. And I include my Instagram because I think just the impression landing on the page, I'm confident in my work. I think my work is good and the number is decent. I think it's just a perceived value thing instantly. That's probably the only reason I included. If it was a low number, I don't know if I would be as inclined to, because at that point, I feel it would just be redundant if the same photos were there that were on my website.
Yeah.
So the website is showing a level of professionalism. And then I think the Instagram is perhaps showing a level of social proof and maybe that you're active on there, etc. But yeah, I don't know if I would attach the Instagram if I had like 22 followers. That's a good question. It doesn't make you any less of a photographer. It just may have an opposite effect on the perceived value or skill level of you, which is unfortunate. I understand that may be not true, but sometimes you can't affect how people view. Like if you're talking to a brand manager on the other end, you can't affect how they're going to interpret that, or you can't anticipate how they're going to interpret that.
And like any job or career or application process, some companies might have 200 applications for a set job, and they might just have a set of standards that they're going to just toss out applications so that they can spend an efficient amount of time reading 20 of them instead of 200. And it could be just like, hey, I've done some stuff with Stio. They're looking for affiliates to have 1,000 followers or more. It's just a cutoff, right? Mm-hmm. They gotta put the line somewhere. They want the postings to be shown to someone. That's the whole point. So they cut it off at some place. And I think that you make perfect sense with if it was way less or it is just a little bit of a badge, like, hey, I have a decent following.
It's just like a little bit of a stamp.
Yeah.
The other thing I was just thinking as we were talking about this, because we were hemming and hawing over whether or not maybe that the ad dollars in today's age would work, or you can play the game of Instagram where you just try and make as formulaic, trendy, viral content as possible.
Also true.
For a set amount of time, just go hard at it for a little bit with the sole intent of I'm trying to make something viral, get your numbers up, and then so be it. I mean, if you're trying to perhaps try to build a following quickly,
yeah,
I'm not suggesting you should go and do that, but maybe that's an alternative. Just deliberately trying to make viral content, which thousands, millions of people do every day. So I understand that, we're artists and photographers and a lot of people where that's icky, and that's fine. That's not what you want to do. But if it really matters to you and you don't want to spend ad or be experimenting with ad dollars, play the game, I guess, right? I'm not willing to play that game, and that's fine. But maybe somebody else listening is, and maybe that's worth the price. Maybe that it's the cost of doing business to get to a certain number if that's important to you. Yeah. But I really don't want people to get too caught up on the follower number, because I do think good work stands on its own.
Yeah.
But just to really hammer it home, I think it's just a first impression type thing. First impression being that there's social proof. That's just what it is. And if you feel like your Instagram numbers would hurt you, I don't even know what that number would be. Perhaps leave it out and just include an email.
I think that was my point.
Website address. Sorry.
No, it's all right. My point was just that. Get to a space as fast as you can, whether that's pay or do trendy stuff or whatever it may be. If what?
If Do that if the numbers matter to you.
Yeah, if the numbers matter to you, but get there as fast as you can. Get there in a month if you can, and then put it aside, and then say like, okay, that's that. Now, if that's not what's important, I guess if that's what's important to you, blah blah blah, keep going.
So treating as a means to an end.
Yeah. So get to that place and then go. Now I'm going to put all the focus that I would have been putting into this for years trying to get to a following. I'm going to put that into emails. I'm going to put that into classes. I'm going to put that into bettering my craft. That will differentiate you from the billions of people on Instagram that are doing the same thing. So the trap is being stuck in the Instagram world. Some of the most successful product and career photographers that we've talked to have very limited Instagrams because they're doing the actual thing. And some of the people that have crazy numbers on Instagram
aren't doing much.
Talk about how they're just getting crazy numbers on Instagram.
That's it. Yeah.
And the other stuff doesn't necessarily come super easy, and it's still a challenge, and you still have to pitch, and you still have to do all the stuff.
Oh, I know people with hundreds of thousands who you talk to them and you're surprised that brands aren't knocking down their door.
Yeah.
I'm like, you're telling me at 500 you still need to go out and pitch? Yeah. I'm not trying to be sarcastic here. I was genuinely surprised to learn that.
Yeah.
I thought 500,000 brands would be like, hey, you want to work here? Here's $3,000. Hey, like it just doesn't work that way.
No, except those pet ones. Like, we love your profile. Do you want some pet, like dog collars? Do you get those? Those weird DMs?
We do. I don't know.
They're always in the hidden folder.
Yeah.
Do you want to work with our pet bandanas?
Yeah.
No.
So funny.
No, I do not.
But yeah, I mean, I guess that trade-off's worth it. Like a month going really hard, build a little bit of following, and then relax. If that trade-off makes sense for the potential social proof, if you want to include your Instagram in pitches and stuff like that.
Yeah, the trick is it's like the casino, like leaving while you're ahead, right? The longer you stay there,
yeah,
the more
make sure you leave the casino. Yeah.
The more garbage you're going to see, the more brain suck, the more scrolling, the more time away from your craft is actually going to start to happen, and you're going to leave with a loss. Like, wow, I have 100,000 followers, but what do I have in return? A fucking century of wasted time.
Yeah. I do agree with you though that I would say that the times where I have included my Instagram has I've gotten feedback where people say, oh, the photos on your Instagram are great. So they've checked it out.
Yeah.
And I think that if it makes total sense that if you're pitching, hey, I can create you reels, hey, I can create you carousel posts, you should have proof of concept that you know how to create those on your own account.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even matter what genre. I just think that you should exist there if that's what you're pitching. If you're saying, hey, I can do website photos for you, you don't need an Instagram to do that.
Right.
I just think that if you're pitching content to be made on the platform, you should exist on the platform. And perhaps what we've been talking about, have somewhat of a decent follower number just for that initial impression when people check it out.
Yep.
Okay. Bonus tip. Bonus thing that's helped.
Good.
Surrounding myself with people who are better than me. And I don't want people to get confused with, oh, I'm just gonna place myself in groups or hang out with people so that they can make me better, so that I can get something. Make friends, but choose your friends in a way that they make your life better, or that you can learn from them. And also understand that those friends don't need to tick off every box in terms of your needs. For example, let's use Ian, right? Ian is a great friend of mine. Ian Jones, he's been on the show.
Mm-hmm. I know. Just
by being around him virtually, I I become more creative because he is a more creative person than me, which is useful for me. We're friends. We'd still be friends, even if that wasn't the case, is the point I'm trying to make, even if there was no utility. But I don't need him to tick off all the boxes. Like I don't need to go to Ian for advice on how to kill after this, how to calm my mind down, or how to meditate, or how to get a good night's sleep for wellness, right? I can surround myself with you and really feel like we've had an intelligent conversation, that I learn a lot, or books get recommended to me that improve my life. Aside from that, we're still friends, but also you are a lot more knowledgeable than me. So I suck in a lot of that stuff. And the TLDR again is, surround yourself with people you want to be like, because you'll become the sum of all those people, right? Or the product. And perhaps, evaluate who you're spending a lot of your time with now. Are those people lifting you up, making your life better? Or is it a crab bucket syndrome? Are they dragging you down? I think do an audit of who's in your circle and be very careful with who you let into it. And I feel like I've done that, and it's been helpful with me progressing in my photography journey and just having a better quality of life.
Yeah. Show me your 5 closest people and I'll know your future.
Yeah. As the saying goes.
Yep. And it's true. I couldn't agree any more than 100% of agreement. I think, surround yourself with good people that are striving to do things you're doing or have already done them.
But in a way that's not just, I want
of course
something from them. I think that's what I'm trying to articulate. That's the bonus of surrounding yourself with people you genuinely enjoy spending your time with.
Yeah.
I think that should come first, and they should also, and then the things they have to offer will be absorbed by you.
Yeah.
In areas where you're maybe weaker or can learn something.
Yeah, I think that's great advice.
And that can be a YouTuber, right? It doesn't necessarily need to be somebody in your phone or in your neighborhood, right? I feel like you should, right? You should have some friends, whether they're virtual or real. But you can also you can fill some of those holes via podcast, YouTube, all those things, So consider that.
Yeah. Good bonus tip.
All right. Hope you liked part 2. You can leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It's a cost-free, effective way to support the show. Consider subscribing to us on YouTube. I get all that word jumble out.
And follow us on Spotify. Our data, a lot of our listeners don't press the follow button. So do us a favor. Press the follow button. It's one of the best things you can do for our show to help us out. And it's the only thing I'll ask of you. Seth asked some other things.
The world.
It's the only thing I'll ask. Press the follow button. Appreciate it.
Till next time.
See ya.